The next skill that we're going to practice is the skill of figuring out a distance using a map scale. And so for this, it's a little bit different from using compass directions. First of all, you don't have to mark a starting point and an ending point. You can if you want, it's not going to help you, just because either way, you're going to have the same distance. The other thing to keep in mind is you're always measuring a distance between 2 points. And the points, again, are marked by the from and the to. So here, if this is my question, what is the distance between Kariba to Chinhoyi? I'm not even confident I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kariba and Chinhoyi are the 2 cities. And if anybody pronounces this correctly and can let me know so that I'm not embarrassing myself on the internet, please let me know. These are my choices down here. So it looks like it's going to be somewhere between 100 miles and 200 miles in distance. And that helps me, or excuse me, 50 miles between 200 miles. Because if I get something totally crazy, like 1,000 miles, I'll know that that's off. The next thing I want to do is to actually go to my scale. So if I zoom out here, this is a map of Zimbabwe. I know that because I found it on the internet, but also this country here is what Zimbabwe actually is. It's not labeled, but the bordering countries are. The scale is in the bottom left-hand corner, or the southwest corner of the map, and I want to find that right away. Each map has its own unique scale, and remember, this is basically a ratio of distances. It means that since we can't actually show a map of Zimbabwe true to size, because that would be crazy huge, we have to shrink down distances. And so 100 miles, for example, is equivalent to approximately 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is take my handy scale card, in this case it's an index card, and I'm going to line up the corner with 0. Now if I'm measuring in kilometers, I'm going to do it on the bottom. If I'm measuring in miles, I'm going to put it on top. Doesn't matter as long as you know which ones you're measuring in. If I check all my answer choices, it looks like I'm doing distance, distance, miles, miles. Miles is going to be what I do. So I go over here and make sure again that you've lined it up in the corner. Then I'm going to put a 0 in the corner just to mark my spot and remind myself. From there, I notice the notches on the scale. So here I have 1 notch for 50 and 1 notch for 100. And I'm going to replicate that on my scale itself. So here, let me straighten out my scale. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put 1 notch on 50, 1 notch on 100. And I'm going to actually mark my numbers there. Again, it's not important to have a notch for 0. You're just marking your place. Then I'm going to double the trouble. And this is so if I actually measure a distance that's over 100, I can still estimate it pretty accurately. So this is not going to be 50, it's going to be 150. This is not going to be 100, it's going to be 200. And quite honestly, I could go on more and more and more. I could slide this over and even create a scale up to 300 if I wanted to get a little crazy. So I'm going to put miles up here. You can also do MI. And now I have my scale. I have a little scale card, which is really similar to a ruler. So now, going back here, it says Kariba to Chinhoyi. And I go over here and I find both of those cities. This is Cordoba, not Karima. This is Kariba, and this is Chinhoyi. So the first thing I'm going to do is line up my index card and create a line. And this is going to enable that I'm measuring the right distance. Now that I've created a line between those 2 cities, I'm going to actually measure it using my scale. And I want to make sure I line up the 0 right on the point, which is Kariba, so that I can get a really accurate measure. Now you'll notice that it's a tiny bit over 100, but as accurately as I can get it, it's about 100 miles. Now, this may be due to human error, but it's roughly about the same. It's not enough to be 125. It doesn't matter because that's not one of my answer choices. So out of my choices here, the closest one to 100 is A, 100 miles. Now, something that you may be considering is, what if you have a distance that's in between one of these? If it's directly in between and that's the best answer choice, like if 125 maybe had been an answer choice here, I would have chosen it. But you want to make sure that you're always choosing the number that is closest to where you end up on the scale.